Okay, we are live. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We are joined once again by friend of the channel, Mr. CH Egan. I really appreciate you taking the time once again out of your busy schedule to hop on here and talk everything about Bittensor TAO. We had a great conversation a few months ago on the channel, and I think it was one of the best performing videos on my channel that month as well. So, yeah, maybe by way of introduction, you're probably a familiar face for many, but a new face for a few. So maybe you can give us a quick background, CH, about you and your journey into Bittensor, and then we can get into all the juicy stuff.
Absolutely. Gordon, my man, it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you again for the invite. I always enjoy these conversations. It's good for me to bounce ideas and kind of formulate my thoughts and share with the world. So it's great to have a platform and avenue through you to do this. So really appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah.
With that said, absolutely. So my name is CH. I have been in crypto for 8 years now because we just bounced into 2026. So wow, it's been 8 years. And I think for me, my journey into Bittensor, I got in 2024. Is that right? Yeah, 2024 in January. So it's been a little while now. I've been compounding with Bittensor for a little while, even though we've been kind of, in this range. But like all good things take time. Things take a lot of time to play out. Things take time to compound. And so I think with Bittensor, you just really have to be patient. And for me, it's not a quick flip. I'm an investor. I'm a buy and hold kind of guy. I'm the type of guy that if I see a massive dip, I actually salivate and I buy more because I'm like, great, juicy prices. I can buy more and accumulate and get better prices. That's how I think about Bittensor, because I think the use case of Bittensor is through the roof. And seldom do you find projects that have so much potential, but also already the use case is already proving itself. Everything from the innovation, the outputs, the AI output, but also at the same time, the reduction in prices. And we'll get into all of that. But before we get into more on the Bittensor talk, your question was a little introduction. But for me, I'm currently based in Taipei. I work at BitGet. We're a top 5 exchange. I'm now the head of influencer partnerships. All I do is I look at content. I talk to some of the top dogs within the content space in crypto mostly. But now we're actually getting into TradFi, into equities, into commodities. BitGet, shout out. We actually just launched our TradFi product this week. So awesome. Lots of things going on. It's a full-time job. So it's been a good journey, great journey. Actually, it's given me a lot of opportunities to meet a lot of people. So really happy to be here.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for the background again. So, working as head of influencer partnerships at BitGet, you're obviously having a lot of conversations with people, not just in TAO, but in crypto in general. What does that look like when you are speaking with influencers? What is the general consensus, if any, about Bittensor? Because I know for myself, it was a journey of being involved in crypto for years. And then I guess really in the past 12 to 18 months for me, it's been just going deeper and deeper into Bittensor. Are you finding that Bittensor is still a relatively untapped ecosystem with a lot of those influencers, or do most people have a pretty good understanding? Maybe just a general pulse check. What does that look like when you're speaking with people about Bittensor?
So I think some of the big names, maybe I won't mention them. I do know many of them are public about it. So I think the ones that I speak to and they are aware of TAO, pretty much all of them are bullish. Like I don't think I've found a single person who is fully aware of Bittensor who is bearish on it. Let's put it that way. But not everybody knows Bittensor. But for example, my boys at Altcoin Daily, shout out Austin. He is bullish on Bittensor. I know he holds TAO and he actively talks about it on his videos. I know Lucky, who is a big influencer on X, he actively talks about TAO on X and very bullish. And so I think pulse check here is that whoever I speak to, those with a massive following, they do actively talk about TAO and they do hold TAO. So that's all a great sign. And then I'm sure I'm very biased because my feed on X is like 80% TAO because that's what I engage with. So of course the algorithm will feed to my bias, but I do see a lot of big accounts really getting into it now. And of course, just recently, this is not really an influencer per se, but he's not your traditional KOL like making videos, but the co-founder of Anthropic, he just released a report on decentralized training. And within it, he talks about Templar, which of course is a subnet on Bittensor. And they are now the largest decentralized training platform in the world. And that was included in the report that he published. And Const actually commented on it. And then of course, the co-founder of Anthropic was like, wow, I'm actually really interested. And so I think it's one of those things where it's a whole rabbit hole, as you know. You really have to be sucked in, and you have to start doing the work to really understand that value proposition and also where it's going and the probability of its success. All these things are convictions that you have to build for yourself. But I think once you do the work, then it's just a match. There's nothing else in crypto for me personally that is exciting and where I'm putting my eggs more into.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the pulse check. So you mentioned conviction, and I think the end of 2025 and Q4 was maybe a little bit underwhelming for a lot of people in crypto in general. I think many, including myself, if you were asking me, let's say in January of 2025, I definitely felt we might have had better performance in Q4. Across the board, maybe people are feeling the effects of that. And I think TAO has underperformed a little bit over the past few months. We're getting a little bit of reprieve now in the past few days with the new year. But what we also had in December was the first halving event for Bittensor. So we were anticipating that last time you and I spoke in October. And I still think there's maybe 6 to 12 months post-halving before we really see some true effects playing out. But what is your own feeling on the market in general? And then maybe could you dissect what you're seeing in the aftermath of the halving here and what you're excited for maybe in 2026 post-halving?
So I'm actually really excited to talk about this because I think for me, while everybody was really bearish with all that's happening in the last couple of months, I was actually like, this is a macro trend. This wasn't a TAO trend. This wasn't TAO dumping because of something happened within the ecosystem. It was the overall market absolutely nuking itself, right? And the 4-year cycle was kind of the general consensus, right? People were like, oh, this is the 4-year cycle, so it must be this way. But you have to understand, this is market psychology 101. If the entire, I can't say entire, but if most of the population think it's going to go one way, you can bet your ass it's not going to go that way. You have to act contrarian to be profitable in any market. Okay. So if the general consensus is that the 4-year cycle, this is what happens, again, bet against that. And so that's what happened, right? You have the entire market nuking towards the second half of the year in 2025, when the general consensus was it was going to have a blow off top, like the last, few cycles before, right? And then with the halving, because it's a known event, right? It's already priced in, and you're not going to get that like face melting rip, because that's usually when something unexpected happens, and that's when people FOMO and pile in. So again, you have to understand market psychology. You have to act contrarian. That is really the biggest key here. And so you have to understand what happened in that October 10th was the worst liquidation event in history for crypto, right? Over $20 billion liquidations. And I think like 2 million traders got liquidated. Those are insane numbers, right? But what happened after that massive wick down on 1010 was that you see Bittensor rip to $540. That was like the best performing crypto asset within our niche, right? Within our industry. And what happened was the lingering effects from the liquidation dragged the entire market down with it, right? Bitcoin went from $126,000, I think October was like the
Sixth
peak,
or
right?
something.
Something like that. And it went all the way down to, was it 80K? I think something like that. A 35% drop. You have to bet your ass altcoins will drop way harder than that. That's just how it works within the crypto market, right? Risk and reward. We're taking on much bigger risk with altcoins than we are with Bitcoin. And everything is in ratio of that. But on the contrary, when things start ripping, altcoins will rip harder too, right? So you just have to understand market structure and market psychology to thrive within the crypto industry. And again, I've been in crypto for 8 years. I've seen it all. I've been through all the worst, not all the worst, because I'm not like super OG, but starting in 2018 onwards, I've been in the market, right? And so these are all things that I'm very familiar with. But again, it just doesn't shake me, because once you do the work on crypto assets and you build your conviction, anytime you see these big discounts, you should salivate and you should get excited. And the whole premise here is, how do you increase your income to buy more? That's it. If you're not a whale, if you're not sitting on massive amounts of money, your whole goal right now should be to either develop insane discipline in trading, or you try to find a job, or you build a business, whatever it is, you start getting income and you buy more. That's the whole game here. That's really how you're going to thrive in crypto. And don't get emotional. Don't, I see a lot of people, and especially on crypto Twitter, right? Anytime the market nukes, it's like tech bad. But anytime it rips, tech good. It's like, dude, that's not how it works, man. You shouldn't get emotional with these things, and just develop a lot of discipline, and then you're going to thrive.
Yeah. It's a difficult switch. It's like a mental model or a paradigm shift that you have to kind of get used to with salivating on those dips. It's hard to do initially when you're a little bit newer and you're trying to stomach that volatility. But I mean, I was buying more TAO then at 220, and bought some more 5 minutes before I hopped on with you. So it's difficult not to buy it when you, and I don't know what's going to happen, but when you keep going deeper into TAO, you just begin to expand the horizon of what is possible, and then price, I think, has to follow from there. And so I'm bullish, to say the least, CH, but I think you summarized it nicely. I want to ask you about media in the world of artificial intelligence and Bittensor. You obviously co-produced the Art of Disruption documentary, which I urge anyone here watching to go and check out if you have not seen it already. You've also created Media 3, your new business as well, that is focused on media in the Bittensor space, and I'll let you speak on that. But then we're also seeing subnets like Bitcast and maybe a couple of others that you can touch on that are honing in on media and content creation in Bittensor as well. So what do you see as maybe the future of media and the importance of media for the ecosystem of Bittensor? And I just know that you're tapped into a lot of different people and businesses related to media. So I'd love to just hear how you're thinking about all that right now.
Absolutely. I think, of course, if you have something of great value, but nobody knows about it, you really don't have anything, right? And so Bittensor is very complex. It's very hard to understand. It takes a lot of time to wrap your head around its incentive mechanism, the kind of value, the value generation that you can bring to the world, right? These things take a lot of time to really understand. And so for me, when I first got into Bittensor, there really wasn't any media, any videos talking about it. There's very, very few, and they were very poorly produced, and it was hard to kind of go through them. The only good thing back then, and still now, is podcast series. That's really how I got into Bittensor, how I really learned about it, right? But there was only very select few sources of these podcasts. And shout out JJ and Mark Jeffrey. Actually, their first podcast was really kind of what TAO-pilled me and started to get my head wrapped around it. And so I think long form content is maybe the most important, because that's where you can sit with someone, you can really get into their head, you can see how they formulate their thoughts. And very, very important. And of course, now you have, JJ and his podcast, right? James Altucher, their podcast together. You still have Mark Jeffrey. You have a number of other podcasts as well that talk about TAO. You have yourself, very consistent with putting out amazing content, not just on Bittensor, but the overall crypto market. I'm always watching. So shout out to you.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, man. And I think just it's very, very important, right? Because that's how you can get the word out. And so now with Bitcast, leveraging Bittensor emissions to incentivize content creation, I think it's next level. Name one company, name one platform that is doing that outside of Bittensor. I really don't even know. And so that's very innovative. They use AI to kind of filter through, and they really increase efficiency for not just the end user, but also for the people who are creating the brief. So I think Bitcast as a business is going to thrive. It really will. I think it's going to disrupt the ad business. I mean, the ad business is $1 trillion, a year business. And I think it's due for disruption now. I think there's a lot of stuff that is due for disruption because of the incentive mechanisms that's being created by Bittensor.
Yeah.
Right now, we're sitting at a $2.8 billion market cap. There's a lot of speculation, people saying it's going to go to $1 trillion. But to get to $1 trillion, that means complete disruption in various industries. I think people don't really think about what $1 trillion market cap Bittensor will look like for the world. You really have to think through the kind of adoption that's going to have, right? Bitcoin got to, we're now what? Are we still shy of a $2 trillion right now? I don't know what the
back up. I think we could be right around it. We dropped back to 1.8. We could be creeping back towards 2 trillion right now. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's just say at $2 trillion, right? That means entire thriving Web3 industry being built because of the Bitcoin blockchain. You have adoption of various governments and of course corporations, Tesla, MicroStrategy. Now the US government is fully backing it. These are all structural changes because of societal structural changes in the financial industry because of Bitcoin, right? And so if Bittensor were to get to $1 trillion, what are they disrupting? What are some of the things that's going to happen in the global economy that will look drastically different because of distribution and because of decentralization and value production within the Bittensor ecosystem, right? We are already seeing it at $2.8 billion market cap with Bittensor. We are already seeing insane value being created, right? Let's just go with some of the examples. You have Ridges creating absolute best in class when measured in Sui benchmark coding agent, right? At a insanely drastically lower price than what Anthropic would offer, right? That's one thing. Very, very early days. You have Synth, which is creating billions. Okay, I don't want to say billions. Insane number of predictions because of the incentive they created for the miners, right? So these miners are incentivized to create price predictions, price patterns of Bitcoin, and then they use that to then trade. And I think on Polymarket, the bot from Synth went from $3,000 to $68,000 in a super short period of time, right? And so those numbers are absolutely bonkers. Something like that was only available to Wall Street. And I feel like Wall Street wouldn't be able to produce that kind of return because the data they're able to generate is much more limited than a distributed network would be able to produce, right? Again, early days. You have, just how many subnets are now currently producing the world's best or the world's cheapest, inference, for example, shoots, right? And again, that's at $2.8 billion in market cap for Bittensor. So what happens to Bittensor when we're at $1 trillion? What are you going to see the kind of exponential growth that will come from that kind of market cap, right? Again, Reed's law. We talked about this last time. Reed's law is It's a network of networks. It's Metcalfe's law on steroids, right? And now you're really seeing the interconnectivity of subnets utilizing each other's digital commodities. So that exponentiality is only going to go on further. It's only going to compound even greater. Again, it's hard not to be excited about Bittensor.
Yeah.
And I know you started with the question of media, and I think the media, we need to explore this. We need to highlight this, right? And so I think these kind of podcasts that we're doing also shines light on that as well. So very, very, very important. Again, I work in media. I'm a content creator, just like you. I work with influencers for the top 5 biggest exchange in the world, doing trillions of volume. And what we do is, how do we highlight what we have? How do we get more eyeballs? How do we get more attention? It's the attention economy.
Yeah.
It's everything. And so what Bitcast is doing, what we're also trying to do, again, it's one of those things where when prices are in such a dump, it's really hard to get people excited. People spend way less. They're on kind of survival mode. And so I think there's going to be greater media production once we really start ripping again, because that's when confidence comes back. People feel more rich. People feel like, oh, I can actually invest more in media, in content. So I think you're going to get that exponential growth even more on a more explosive end once prices really start going up again.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. Right now, when everything is in a gutter, people aren't really, they're just like, how do we get by? How do we just survive this? Right.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm excited. Now we're already looking back up. I mean, up 30% in 2 weeks is fantastic. It's one of the best rebounding coins out there, other than meme coins, I think. But, you know, meme coins are just speculative BS. You want to be something with high utility. But yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you first mentioned. Like, if nobody knows about Bittensor, you know, how can we get more adoption? How can we get more users? And I'm trying to play a part in that, a small role, but ultimately, you know, just trying to shout it from the rooftops, because we need to get the word out. We need to get more people using subnets, using the protocol. And if we're going to get to a $1 trillion market cap, you know, we need to bridge that gap, like you said. I'm curious to know what you're seeing from capital allocators. So obviously you've got your experience with BitGet and everything you do there. I think last time we spoke, you also mentioned you've been having some conversations with the guys from Stillcore. We've got a number of different hedge funds in the space, DSV, Stillcore, and a handful of others. I know we've just had a rebound in 30% in price for TAO. We've also seen DSV and the GTAO Trust as well in the past week or so, filing to convert that into an ETF, I believe. Anything you're seeing, like boots on the ground, or the conversations you're having, or maybe even just stuff that you're hearing about in terms of institutional capital or more of that type of capital flowing into TAO? I'm curious if you've got, without naming names, of course, but, you know, just maybe things that you're seeing from your perspective.
I think the institutions is for sure here, and in Bittensor, they're definitely very bullish on Bittensor. Like you said, Grayscale has their trust, and also Bitwise, right? They also launched one as well recently. Oops, excuse me.
You're all good. Take your time.
And yeah, so give me 1 second. What's going on here? Is it going to pop up? Sorry, guys. My camera sometimes just shuts off without me doing anything to it. What is going on here?
Take your time. No worries.
Usually it would work once you turn it off and on. So give me 1 second. Huh. This is very strange. I'm not sure why this is happening.
No worries. We can keep rolling without the camera. Don't stress. Don't stress.
Well, it's just kind of annoying that it's happening.
If you want to drop off for a moment and come back on, that's not a problem if that's going to fit as well.
Yeah, let me try to do that. Let me be right back.
Yeah, take your time. So I know we're live, guys, but if there's any questions for CH that you want to drop in the chat, feel free to do so as well. And I'll monitor the chat. And if there's any topics you want to get CH's input or insights on, let us know, and we'll get into it for sure. He's back. There we go.
Okay, so I think that's what was missing. I just had to get out of the chat room. Excuse me.
All good. Yeah, okay. So I think we were just about to get into the institutional capital side of things, what you're seeing, and any insight.
Yeah. Yes, so there's no doubt that institution is here. I think one of the things that makes me most bullish is having some of the smartest, most successful people in both Web 2 and Web 3 really fully, like full-time in Bittensor, right? I think last time we talked about David Lowy and Barry Silbert. Of course, Barry is behind GBTC, not GBTC, but also GTAO, right? Grayscale's trust that was just launched. And if you look at GBTC, which is that first trust they launched with Bitcoin, that was one of the best performing institutional assets ever, right? And they were the ones that pioneered the institutionalization of Bitcoin. And they are now applying everything they did with Bitcoin in the really early days, literally play by play, and they're applying it to Bittensor. And Barry is out there shilling TAO harder than me anywhere in public. And you have a crypto billionaire in him doing that. Amazing, right? And his incentives are aligned with the project. He is the biggest TAO whale. And just that on itself, with his resources, you should be bullish. But also, I think someone like David Lowy being fully in Bittensor and co-founding Crucible Labs with Ala Shabana, who's the co-founder of Bittensor, also speaks volume, right? I know, actually, there's a report that I really urge everyone to go read, is Semi Kassab's investment thesis on Bittensor. Semi is the co-founder of Unsupervised Capital. They are a professional capital allocator for Bittensor and the subnets. But that fund is backed by David Lowy. And David Lowy is really an OG in tech, right? He is now, like I said, the co-founder of Crucible Labs, which is a company within the Bittensor ecosystem. They have their own Bittensor wallet. They also help incubate and accelerate a lot of the subnets. They are very active in the space. But David Lowy was Google's CMO turned VP, right? Who then, like, this is now a decade ago, more than a decade ago, in 2014, he created a company called Capital G. Capital G manages over $7 billion for Google. And what they do is they invest in different ventures, right? And this guy is literally a professional capital allocator for Google. Like, you can't top that in terms of being a capital allocator, okay? Just that in itself should speak volume. And what is he doing? He's going full-time in Bittensor. So, I mean, just seeing these kind of things play out, for me, it speaks volume, right? I'm not the smartest guy. And honestly, a lot of times when I'm on crypto Twitter, I see Const and then AI people talk about, AI specs and all these different innovations. I'm like, I'm too dumb for this, but I'm incentivized to be aligned with them, right? Because I hold the same token. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride and keep reading stuff that I don't understand, but it looks super legit. And you have, like I said, the co-founder Anthropic being excited about all the things that are being talked about. So I'm like, okay, at least it's not, even though I don't understand it, at least these really smart people do, and they're excited. So, cool. So that speaks volume.
Yeah, you got to follow the smart money. I'm the same. Like, I see talk about inference, pre-training, post-training models. Getting into the granularities of the code is not my strong suit either. But Barry Silbert, for example, like you mentioned, has a very strong track record. And even just, I think, 6 or 8 months ago, he was on a few podcasts talking about TAO, but he was also talking about Zcash. And we saw what happened with Zcash in October, November, December as well. He was big on that over the past year or two, and he knows what's up. He knows what's up for sure.
Yeah, no
Awesome.
doubt. And you have the corporate, the DATs, right? The digital asset treasuries also in play, and there's various companies that are pursuing that, right? TAO X, for example, Oblong. There's a lot of those. You have a bunch of funds. Shout out Stillcore and Rob, and of course Mark Jeffrey and Jason Calacanis from the All In podcast. I know there's a ton of interest. I speak with Rob all the time. Obviously, it's a little harder to raise when prices are so low. But on the contrary, a lot of people that they talk to are smart money, so they're actually excited that prices are low. Again, that is one thing I urge everybody listening here to develop that mindset in building your own thesis and conviction. Do your own work, and so you're not the herd. You're not being pulled in when things are going super high and you get FOMO, and then that's when you make the biggest mistakes. So again, go and do the work, listen to more podcasts, check out more Gordon's videos to learn about TAO, and that's how you can build your conviction and you can win, because there is no other play in my vicinity that I think will generate a good return than TAO, risk adjusted. That is the key term here, is you're managing your risk while making the biggest upside. And if you really want to take more risk on the risk curve, go into subnets. Just go and bet on those and accumulate more TAO. That is how I think about this.
Yeah, on the topic of subnets, what do you think 2026 might look like? Because 2025 was very experimental. We only had DTAO introduced in the middle of February. We're still not even a full year with DTAO and Alpha tokens. We had periods of volatility in March, April, where subnets and some of subnets ran up super high, and it's been pulling back. Now we seem to be in a period where that sum of subnets metric is starting to just slowly grind higher, meaning that we're seeing more capital slowly flowing out of root and into subnets. And like you said, it is a little bit more of a risk-on approach to taking on exposure in the TAO ecosystem. But what do you think could be in store in 2026? Do you think we will see value flowing into subnets in the same way that we see an altcoin season in crypto, where you have a bunch of subnets outperforming, or all subnets maybe, or the majority substantially outperforming at a certain point this year? Maybe you can give us your take on that. And then if there's any particular examples of subnets you want to touch on, feel free to do so.
For sure. And of course, I don't have a crystal ball. None of us do. If I did, I'd be a trillionaire, right? But at the same time, I think we have to think in bets. We have to think in probabilities, right? That's how you should think about investments. Nobody knows, but what are the probabilities of something happening? And from what I'm seeing, I believe this year will be an up year based on all the macro conditions. Again, what happened in the last 2 months for the crypto market was really what happened on 10/10. That liquidation event was so massive, a lot of people blew up. A lot of big market makers blew up. And so there was a lot of lingering effects from that. People had to liquidate. They have to fund their debts. There was a lot of stuff that happened because of the liquidation event that really affected the markets. However, everything is pointing up to the right. You have the Trump administration fully behind it. You have Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who is a macro guy. He ran his hedge fund. He understands how business cycles work. He understands liquidity cycle. And with the midterms coming up, they're going to jam the business cycle and try to inject more liquidity so that they make it look like the economy is thriving and doing great, so they can get reelected. That's just how the game is played, right? You have potentially the Fed chair being replaced by Kevin Bessent, who is very pro-growth, very, very huge on stimulating the economy. And of course, central bank, a lot of interest rate cuts around the world, including the US. Japan, we'll have to see. I mean, that obviously the yen trade is always kind of a big unknown. But either way, I believe this year will be an up year. And also, one of the biggest indicators for the crypto market is the ISM. the PMI index, right? And what the PMI index does is it is the business cycle index, essentially. It indicates where we are on the business cycle. And if you study Raoul Pal, he talks about, it's because of global debt where we had a delay in the ISM. Everything kind of got pushed back. And so usually the reason why we think of a 4-year cycle in the past is because of the debt, the debt maturity cycle. And now a lot of debt around the world, this is the year they have to refinance the debt. So everything's being rolled over. And so they have to devalue the currency in order to service the debt. So what happens when you devalue the fiat currency? Fixed supply assets will rip because the denomination in the dollar or other fiat currencies, they get devalued, right? It's an illusion, but at the same time, you want to be holding assets. And crypto will be the fastest horse. Now, I say all of this to preface that I believe crypto will have a massive year upwards. I think we will most likely have a blow off top because last cycle we had the double top. We didn't have your typical blow off top. And this year with all the regulatory certainty that's coming, the big beautiful bill, you have just a lot more regulatory friendly environment for crypto. You have all the banks really incentivized to push the product because now they can profit from it, right? I think this year we'll have a blow off top, and I think TAO will be one of the fastest horse because again, TAO is the #1 biggest player within the crypto AI niche. It has escape velocity. It has some of the biggest players all backing it. A lot of use cases. I think that will continue to grow. The exponential growth from that will continue. But again, Pareto distribution. Pareto distribution is the 80-20 rule in that the 20% of the top market cap in whatever niche, they will continue to get adoption and they will take up 80% of the liquidity. Sometimes Pareto can go up to 90-10, right? And if you look at the clearest winners from last cycle, the ETH killers, for example, last cycle, right? Cardano and Solana. Those are the two big winners from last cycle. According to Siam Kid, if you look at total market cap, total crypto market cap, and also those winners, what they took up was anywhere from 2 to 4% of the total crypto market cap. And I think TAO, the probability of TAO being that winner this cycle is quite high. I really think it's quite high. Very, very new narrative. It's a virgin landscape. There's these subnet utilities. And again, Reed's law, network of networks, right? The exponential growth of Bittensor is far greater than anything else, I think, in crypto, potentially. And I think that will continue to get adoption and network effects. And so if TAO rips super, super high, people are going to feel rich and people will then invest. Oh, how do I then convert my TAO and grow my TAO pot? It's the same story every single time. If you look at the ICO boom, ETH really ripped. And then people took their ETH and then they got into ICOs. And then ICO coins, obviously 99% of them went to the gutter, but people will take more risk. Whenever the markets rip, people will take greater and greater risk because they feel rich. That is just how it works. And I think this time will be no different. So Bittensor rips, which I think has a very high probability of it happening, then people will take their TAO, which is already up, for example, 10x, and they're like, oh, how do I then invest in subnets? Right? And that's just the herd mentality. So you don't want to be a herd. You want to be a wolf. You want to then now take your TAO to say, okay, how do I grow my TAO pot when it's still pretty low? That is what I'm doing. I have about 30% of my entire TAO pot allocated to subnets. I continue to scope out opportunities. Actually, I have more than that. But yeah, either way, for me, I am actively trying to figure out how do I then get more of these alpha tokens, but also TAO, right?
Yeah.
So that is my take, and position yourself accordingly.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. You're taking those lessons from historical cycles, and I do think they will map and rhyme in a similar fashion when it comes to TAO and subnets. Anything on your radar in terms of individual subnets? I think last time we spoke about BitMind. We spoke about Bitcast in a bit more detail. anything over the past few months that's been piquing your interest, or not even from an investment standpoint, but maybe just from cool shit they're building, or something that's standing out to you?
Yeah, I mentioned Synth. I thought that was super cool what they're doing. You should really look into the Polymarket bot that they have. I thought that was super fascinating. Leveraging the data that they get from all the miners, and then of course using AI to find opportunities to profit consistently. I mean, turning $3,000 to $68,000 in a matter of, I think it's like a couple of months or something like that, is absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. And so that's a super cool use case. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, we can go down the list, right? You have Targon that really reached kind of the equilibrium price for GPU rentals, because they incentivize miners to really reduce their prices as much as possible. You have Shoots that they are the biggest subnet now? I think
Affine was kind of competing with them for
that's right.
I think they're kind of they're battling it out every week.
Const's behind that. But I think, I mean, there's just so many really super exciting subnets that you can look into. I mean, my head spins because we have 128 different subnets, right? It's really hard to give a favorite, but I think.
Well, all I can say is this. Then we've seen the launch of the Bitstarter platform as well, kind of like this concept of Kickstarter for subnets. I think they've done 2 and maybe now a 3rd crowdfunding type of approach for different subnet slots. What do you think of that idea? I know it's still early days, but have you partaken in any of that, or have you kind of been looking in from the outside and just kind of monitoring what's been happening?
I see what they're doing. I think is exciting. I think what TAO is doing is just like, how do we then look at what has been successful in the kind of centralized world, the Y Combinators? How do we then, apply it to then in a distributed fashion? And I think that's super cool. And again, you have to understand, all of these things are all experiments, right? Nothing is guaranteed. That's really have to drill your head into. But again, you want to be in something that's novel, something that is really providing a lot of value. And I think they definitely are doing that, right? Shout out to the Alchemist. I know he is active in the Bitstarter. And speaking of which, I know he is going to be an exploit in SF. Is that something that you're looking to go to as well?
Possibly. I'm trying to work it out if it's going to work with my schedule, but I'd love to. I will be at either exploit or proof of talk. I'm gonna make one of them work for sure.
Okay, for sure. So I did proof of talk last year in Paris. Shout out to those guys. Fantastic event if you haven't been to. But I think this year I want to try to see if I can go to exploit in San Francisco. Yeah. So hopefully see you there.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, shout out to the guys at exploit. I know they're doing great things. They're building it out. And so that is kind of my plan. But either way, I think coming back to subnets, you have to think risk and reward, right? Right now, subnets are a really completely new, novel thing. But if you really dig in, a lot of them are already either producing the best in class output, or they are reducing the cost like crazy. I think last time we touched on this. I think it's really important to iterate again. Ridges, of course, the subnet that solves for the coding agent, right? They're going up against the Anthropics and the OpenAIs. They were able to solve for the 3 benchmark, beating out those other competitors that I just mentioned, those centralized behemoths, using less than $1 million in incentives, while those centralized entities spent hundreds of millions of dollars for those models to solve for the 3 benchmark at 75% for Anthropic. So if you're listening, if you're new to Bittensor, you have no idea what I'm talking about. go and look into the SWE benchmark, which is the software engineering benchmark. This is kind of like the standardized test, the SATs, so to speak, for AI agents, right? So let's say I have this AI agent in front of me and I'm like, okay, I want you to go and help me code. I'm a coder, I write code. Let's say I want to build a website, right? Then I will just use these coding agents to say, okay, in plain English, go and build me this website, right? And the coding agent will go to do that autonomously without any human intervention. Now, what Ridges did that is so fascinating and so cool was that when we're looking at the SWE benchmark, Anthropic, of course, you might have heard of, $186 billion valuation company, spent hundreds of millions of dollars on their LLM, and their AI agent, when solving for the SWE benchmark, got a 75% score, right? So the AI agent that Anthropic has got a 75%. That's like a C, right? But that was the best in the world. Nobody has ever gotten an A, right? Because AI agents are still very new. They're still very novel. There's still a lot of tweaking and refining, right? AI is still a very new thing, by the way. It's not like a God mode yet, right? And what Ridges did was it came in, I think it was like they launched in May, I believe. And by July, I think it was like 6 weeks, not even 2 months, they were able to solve for the SWE benchmark an 80% score using less than $1 million in incentive. So again, if you're new, that is kind of the context of what we're talking about. But if you know already, then bear with us. But either way, that in itself is incredible, absolutely incredible, because you have to understand the miners of Bittensor are some of the best in the world, and they only get paid when they bring value. It is a Darwinian AI kind of Olympic style competition. May the best winner win. That is the whole thesis, and not thesis. That is what's happening on the Bittensor network. That is what you have to understand in real time. Fundamentally, it's continuously improving and refining competition. And so that in itself is incredible. But at the same time, Ridges also use compute from Shoots, which is another subnet, and the compute that they were able to use. The CEO of Ridges said, if we were to use the same compute on Anthropic, it would have cost us more than $2 million. But they were able to use Shoots, the same compute, nothing has changed, but in a distributed manner. You know how much they paid? They paid $46,000. That's $46,000 compared to $2 million. That's a 95% savings for Ridges. And so if you understand that, moving forward, a lot of companies are going to think for themselves to say, how do I save money? And they're going to have to start looking into Bittensor. If they're an AI company, they have to start doing that. Video, another subnet on Bittensor, they do video compression. Video compression is a massive thing that companies have to do. For example, Netflix. I know Netflix spends $1 billion a year with Amazon compressing their content. Okay. Now, a video does it in a distributive manner. The cost savings Netflix would get if they were to use video would be like 90+%. Right. And that is just the nature of the beast with Bittensor. So you're either going to get amazing innovation like Ridges solving for SWE benchmark, best in the world, beating centralized entities. But also at the same time, you're going to get cost savings like with the Shoots, like with the videos of the world in the subnet world. So those are two things that you have to understand what you get for Bittensor: innovation, best in the world, and cost savings. And so I don't see a world moving forward where that doesn't grow exponentially, where I'm telling you, all it takes is for one company to go, actually, it makes a lot more sense economically for me to use these subnets than it does for me to use centralized companies, right? It's kind of like the Michael Saylor aha moment with MicroStrategy to go, oh, the government's about to print all this money. I'm sitting on all this cash. What can I do with it? I looked at all these different asset classes in the world, the fine arts, gold, stocks, Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin actually makes the most sense. I'm going to start going into Bitcoin. And once Michael Saylor's brain flipped from not understanding what Bitcoin was to then, oh my God, this will solve my problems, and then going all in, and then all the other copycats, that's what really kickstarted the institutionalization of Bitcoin. I think it's micro strategy. So I think the same thing with Bittensor, in that all it takes is one big company to go, oh shit, like why am I using these centralized services when I can use subnets to scale my business, but then also save myself a ton of money and fees using whatever service that I need to use to then grow my profits. I think once we get that like big player to come in an ecosystem and then shine a light on the ecosystem, that's when you're going to get the insane price appreciation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my take.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of when and not if. It's an eventuality, the way that I'm thinking about it, and I think you agree.
You have to understand, Google is so entrenched with Bittensor. We already have the Bittensor ecosystem thought leaders go and speak at the Google office in Toronto a couple of times already, right? You have David Lowy, the professional Google, capital allocator, all in. Do you think Google is not finding ways to utilize it? Maybe they're just not public about it. And so I just think, again, matter of time. 2.8 billion in market cap is peanuts. To get to $1 trillion, that means massive corporations are using the subnets and the outputs.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here, CH, but maybe just as some parting words. I know there's probably 50 different reasons why someone who's a little bit newer to the ecosystem should be paying attention to Bittensor. But if you could maybe verbalize or condense all of these reasons into maybe something succinct or a takeaway for someone who's a little bit newer to Bittensor, who's watching, maybe they've just come across Bittensor, maybe they've just heard of subnets for the first time, maybe they're starting to dabble with DTAO and get involved. What's one key reason someone should be paying attention to TAO over, not just over other AI projects in crypto, but just in general? Why should TAO be worth paying attention to for someone right now?
I think we can all agree AI is fundamentally maybe the most important technology of our generation, right? And I think open source is immensely important because that is how you can compound a technology faster than if there are gatekeepers to it. So the reason why we have the internet today and the way it is because TCP/IP protocol is open source. And so a lot of contributors from around the world can build upon it, right? Computers are the way it is because it's Linux. Open source is very, very, very important. So if we look at all the different technologies within our lifetime that has grown to the adoption level that it has today, right? What's to say that the AI technology shouldn't be open source, right? There's a lot of issues with closed source AI. Of course, don't get me wrong. They are the leaders right now, the open AIs. And although, to be honest with you, open source models are already caught up with closed source models. It's just that the closed source models, they have more financial backing, they have more marketing budget, they have, these big names like the Sam Altmans behind it, kind of evangelizing AI. But I think open source AI is immensely critical for the advancement of the human species. Of course, there's a place for closed source AI, as we can see, but you have to understand the growth and the progression of Bittensor over time will be far greater than any of these centralized closed source models. That's just how I see it. I don't see a world where open source AI will be slower in progression than closed source. Okay. So fundamentally, open source, very, very important. Now, what has Bitcoin taught us? Bitcoin has taught us, I think we discussed this last time, but again, it's very, very important to iterate. I think whenever I come on these live streams, I actually don't talk about a lot of things that are different because fundamentally, Bittensor, my thesis from 2 years ago versus today is the same, right? You have to really understand Bittensor, you have to understand Bitcoin. Bitcoin became the world's largest supercomputing network in the world when measured in hash because of aligned incentives, right? And so the reason why Bittensor will be successful is because it models after this ethos. But instead of just one single incentive, right, producing or providing compute, and there it goes again, my damn camera.
It's okay.
Let's see if it works this time. Okay, let me just log out quickly again.
10-second
oh,
reset.
No, there it is.
Oh,
there it is. Okay, now it works. Okay, I'm back. All right, so where were we? Bitcoin. The reason why Bitcoin became so successful, well, a few things. There is the liquidity cycles from the different governments, because crypto is the most reflexive, right? If it's the most effective from liquidity cycles, but also network adoption, right? There are more and more nodes that come onto the network, the more strengthened and secure it becomes, right? But the reason why there was so much growth fundamentally under the hood is because of these miners that are incentivized to secure the network by providing electricity, right? And so what Bitcoin taught us is that if incentives are aligned and there's network growth and adoption, that network, a distributed, decentralized network, will grow to become bigger than any centralized entities. So for example, Bitcoin is larger than 5 of the biggest private banks combined without any corporate hierarchy, any CEO, any CMO. It's purely just a virus with network effects that spread through word of mouth, and also competition. Bitcoin is also a Darwinian technology in that the miners, whoever comes onto the network, will compete with each other to try to bring the biggest value in either, you know, their compute, or, you know, the most stable electricity, whatever the case is, to outcompete other miners within the network. Again, the rule is that there are no rules. So the exact same thing is happening for Bittensor, but in the AI realm. Not even just AI, in whatever kind of problem you want to solve by creating the right incentives. And we're already seeing this play out, right? For example, Ridges, the subnet that we just discussed, what they do is every hour and a half, they have this reward, and they give the reward to the #1 best performing miner. They don't split it. They do winner take all. And that capital is so enticing, so attractive, that people were always trying to outcompete each other to try to get that reward. And that's how you're able to get to that 80%, the 80% benchmark for the street benchmark, right? Within 6 weeks, which is just bonkers when you think about it. So what that shows us is that Bittensor is an incentive alignment and coordination network. And again, going back to Reed's law, all of these subnets, they're its own node, and each one of these nodes, it's its own network. And now all of these different networks are connecting to each other. Like I mentioned, Ridges with shoots. I know Bitcast, shout out to them. They're also using shoots. I know Dippy AI, subnet 11, is using subnet 4 Targon for their GPUs and their compute. And so you are really starting to see all of these different subnets interconnecting to each other, using each other's digital commodities. The exponential growth you're going to see in Bittensor will be unlike anything you've ever seen. I really don't think people understand the exponential growth that is about to come for Bittensor. I've been in this game long enough. Last cycle, I saw the crazy run up of Solana. I think when I first saw Sol, it was like $10 and went to $260 or $230 in that last cycle, which is insane within I think it was 4 or 5 months, right? But again, that was like the crazy liquidity cycle. But I think the same thing will be true this time. I think we will have a blow off top. I don't want to give any price predictions because, again, I don't freaking know. I have no idea. But at the same time, I think it'll be one of those things where it's going to slowly grind up. And then when it tops, it's going to double. You're going to get to all-time high. Let's say, for example, we're going to get to $4,000. We're going to slowly kind of grind up. And then from 4,000, it's going to double overnight. That is the top. That will be the top. When you see that blow off top, when you get to the price reaches a ridiculous amount and then it doubles, that's when you have people FOMOing, just dumping crazy money. That is the top. And so I think we will see that with Bittensor. I think we'll see that with some other assets as well. And that's how I'm positioning myself. Just keep accumulating.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. One final question, maybe to wrap things up. Iskar in the chat was mentioning, what makes subnets better to invest in versus regular crypto market? And one thing I was mentioning, CH, and this took me a while initially to fully click, and I think I'd love to get your perspective on this, but subnets are denominated in TAO, which is a hard cap fixed supply asset, meaning they are first and foremost denominated in that asset, and the market cap of the subnets is denominated in TAO. So, the market cap of Shoots is like 300,000 TAO. That is fundamentally different compared to something like ERC20 tokens on Ethereum or SPL tokens on Solana that can be spun up and inflated away to infinity. So the competitive nature and the fact that subnets are denominated in a fixed supply asset is fundamentally something we haven't seen in crypto before. And it brings it back to that fact you mentioned of Reed's law and the network of networks, and the fact that all those subnets are individual AI startups, but because they're denominated in TAO, and you also have to buy TAO to stake into subnets, it's like the perfect flywheel. So for me, that's the big reason and the big difference, and that's what gets me pumped up. But what else would you say to this question?
I mean, that's already a great great segue, right? I mean, that in itself speaks volume, because the value accrue needs to go to TAO. Again, like you said, a lot of these other chains, you can just create a token and you can just use stable coins like USDT as the kind of the denomination, right? But for Bittensor subnets, it's all denominated in TAO. And so if TAO goes up or down, of course, it drags the value of it going up or down. And also subnets are also capped at 21 million. Don't forget that. And so if you want to invest in other assets, I have gotten burned. There's an experience that I've gotten burned by a very diluted market or tokenomics. I've gotten burned by really bad tokenomics. And so I learned my lesson. And so the reason why I was so bullish on Bittensor initially was like, somebody was like, oh, this is the Bitcoin of AI. It's Bitcoin's tokenomics. I was like, oh, what is that? Okay. And that's what initially sparked my interest, to be honest. And then I fell down a rabbit hole, like I said. And so I think subnets are being within the TAO ecosystem will benefit from TAO ripping. It for sure will rip. I just don't see a world where TAO won't be one of the fastest horse this cycle. I just really don't see a world where it doesn't do that. And so if that happens, then the subnets will be even faster horses, because it's within that ecosystem. There will be a lot of money that flows into the subnets once TAO has its big run. Again, it just comes back to risk and reward. When things are going really, when things go crazy, the money will flow into those other assets that are further out on the risk curve. And if it's in the same ecosystem, that usually means it will flow into that after the base asset has its run. Yeah. That's just usually how it works. And so I rather be positioned in the same ecosystem that I'm really bullish on, because again, I'm just very bullish on Bittensor as a whole. And then I want to allocate a portion to the higher risk, but much higher return within that ecosystem.
Love it. Love it. CH, I really appreciate your time. I'm coming away from our conversation even more pumped about TAO. So I appreciate your time as always. It's always a pleasure to connect and speak with you. And let's keep in touch. We'll have to get you back in a couple of months again to see what's going on in your world. And also, I know you're going to be keeping a pulse on everything in Bittensor in the meantime. So truly appreciate your time, for sharing your wisdom, and for imparting your knowledge with everyone watching today.
I really appreciate those kind words. And again, really happy to be here. Always happy to have a chat with you. You are a great interviewer. You, of course, make great content. I urge everyone to go and check out all the other stuff. I'm always keeping a pulse on your content. So appreciate you having me on. And of course, I'm going to share this with my friends. I'm always TAO-pilling people. So I'm happy to do this on a bigger scale. I could just send this video to other people. Like, I just watched this. I don't want to talk more about it. Just go and pay attention to Gordon and subscribe. So if you haven't already, go and subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and we're going to continue making some great content.
Likewise. Check out CH over on X, guys. And in Down the Rabbit Hole, is that correct? On the YouTube
crypto rabbit hole?
Down the crypto rabbit hole. Yep. It's on the wall. Check out CH, give him a follow, guys. And we'll definitely connect again in a few months, my man.